Let's pull it up on here and make sure. I just posted. Do you want it lighter or darker? This is how it looks.
Let's just see. Oh,
that's too dark. That was one button?
Yeah, just one. That's one more up. We'll try one more brighter.
This is that lower level, and then... Do you like the lighter?
Yeah, I think it looks nice.
Okay. Hi, you guys. I'm gonna... So if you see me looking at my phone, I'm reading comments. Because I'm blind. So maybe before we get into... We're going to be talking about number 32 again. We've talked about him before on Culty Cup of Coffee number 32. But we have... I put in the description box down below the evidence so we can actually say his name and talk about it because it's all been printed in the news articles, newspaper articles. We're going to talk about the stories that we heard in the order about this case and then what actually happened, as well as what we don't know where certain things came from. But I was going to say, if you guys have any questions about the previous video that we did, I'm like forgetting what it was.
The one about the gold.
Yeah.
$5 million.
$5 million worth of gold stolen out of Patty Kingston's house. If any of you guys have questions about that, before we get into what we're going to be talking about. So I'm going to talk for a little bit about number 32, murdering a teenager. And then Eskel's going to talk about...
The scary part.
Because I think when you used to do your lives, then you did...
Well, my favorite part was in all of October, I did scary stories. And it was fun. So
Halloween time.
I'm just going to share my favorite book.
Okay.
We're going to read the whole thing tonight on this one.
And you can't leave. None of you can leave. Okay. Hi, Taylor. Hi, Crystal. Hi, Sky. Hi, Emily. Kaya, Skedra, Kevin, Lara. Hi. Todd's here. Okay. So I'll get my info out of the way. I did all my homework for you guys. And then Eskel will hand the microphone over to Eskel, okay? Eskel also kind of wanted to talk about our memories.
Well, just in Halloween spirit, I think it'd be fun to talk about what Halloween was like growing up and our very last time we ever went trick-or-treating.
That was our very last time we did that?
Yep.
Did you trick-or-treat after that?
I did one time, actually, yeah.
Okay. Because you was just a little boy.
I didn't want to give it up. I knew I was too old to still go trick-or-treating, but I went anyways.
Kyle Grant is here. Say hi to Dad. I'm just kidding. Okay. I'm off center.
Yeah.
No. Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna start with talking about number 32. Okay, which is Ellery Kingston. If you click the link that I have in the description box down below, I put a video together for you guys. It's an unlisted link so that you can see the pictures of the victim that was killed by Ellery Kingston. So this happened August 2nd of 1979. And the kid was... So there's different news articles that are in the video clip. And they have his age wrong. And some of them say 15, some of them say 17. But his correct age was 16 years old. He was born in 1963 and died in 1979. So yeah, that would make him 16. But hi, Josh. Did you watch that video? Sorry, I saw Josh's comment. And Josh is the reason why we filmed he's the one that gave the idea for the 5 million stolen gold purloins. So say thank you to Josh. Life out of order. I thanked you in the end of the video. Did you watch it? Did you like it? I had to get a lot of different people's opinions and stories together for that video to make sure it was as accurate as possible. And I still have to edit some stuff. Not edit, but put some stuff in the description box for that one. So thank you, Josh. Anyway, so we're talking about Ellery Kingston, and what I'm gonna say what I heard, and you can say what you heard too. I don't know how much you heard about this, but I remember.
It's not much.
Yeah, same. I heard that basically one of the leaders had told Ellery that he needed to watch over and order business, and then there were some thieves that broke in. I'm pretty sure it went around that they were Hispanic, because for whatever reason, we in the order, well, not for whatever reason, because they're racist. if they said that this criminal was also Mexican, which is what they said, then it would make the followers be like, oh yeah, they're a thug, they're a criminal, so it's a good thing that he killed them, you know. But I do remember hearing that they were very young. I didn't know how old he was though. So that's what we were told, and that well, that's what was going around the order. I don't ever remember anyone getting up on stage and saying this, but it was at the time of Ortel, when Ortel was the leader. So Ortel, I guess back in the day, the order owned this place called Super Circus. It apparently,
that was the name?
yeah. I was like, what? Super Circus? But it was basically like the Walmart of the time. It's like a big, it was like before Walmart.
Type thing then?
Yeah, had everything that they needed.
Wait, is it that same one that we used to go to before John's Marketplace?
No, that's East Side Market.
Oh.
East Side Market was a lot smaller, and I think they still have that property. This property they don't have anymore, and it shows the location of the property in the news articles. It's about a mile from Standard Restaurant Supplies, so it was over on that area. And so around that time, I guess there was a lot of businesses getting robbed, and so Ortel tells Ellery, "Hey, I need you to go watch over Super Circus so that no one robs the place." So he goes and he sleeps in a van, the back of the van, in the Super Circus, and he had his 22.
Well, in the back of
his rifle, 22 rifle. No, he was
the
in.
The van was in the building?
Yeah, because it was like a warehouse.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he was inside the property and sleeping in the van with his rifle, and all the lights were off, and then he hears a window break, and apparently 2 kids were breaking in. He claims that it was dark, he couldn't see very well, and he told them to stop. But even in the news article, it says that he tells them to stop, and the one stopped.
The one that he ended up
shooting,
right?
Yep. So he's running around trying to find these thieves. He goes towards the broken window. One is in, and the other kid is like halfway in, halfway out of the window. And he tells him to stop. And again, like, I don't know what happened because I wasn't there, but the report says that the kid stopped and then he shot after the kid stopped. The other kid that was in the window just got out of the window and started running. He booked it home. And so I'm trying to figure out if it was Ellery's statement or if it was the kid that got away claiming that this is what happened. But the bullet wound was from the back.
Wow.
So meaning that the kid
wasn't shot twice, right?
Yeah, he shot 2 times. And killing this boy. He was a 16-year-old boy. You can see there's his pictures and everything. And I wonder, because it says manslaughter, but I never remember him going to prison. I never remember him actually serving time for this. And I don't know if it's because there's laws on this or we just didn't hear about it, but the members were instructed to pray and meditate for Ellery so that he wouldn't go to jail, which is what happened with David. Remember with David? Okay, I remember being told to meditate for David, having no idea what David actually did. Come to find out, he was a rapist, right? Like, we were praying as kids in elementary school, being directed to pray for a rapist, meditate for a rapist.
Pretty much the entire time he was in jail.
Yep.
We were told to pray for him.
Because they would say if you were having a hard time figuring out what to meditate for Brother David to get out of jail. So, I really wish I could find out.
Wait, did you say the age?
Yeah, he's the boy?
Yeah, the boy was only 16 years old.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So if you guys want to look at those pictures in the description box down below to see, it's sad looking at it. And especially like finding out that there was a lot of things that were lied about with it, like his race, and he was LDS too. He was from an LDS family.
Wow. I wonder why they would feel the need to change those details, It's just weird.
I think they just wanted to frame it so that Ellery, number 32, was not in the wrong at all. Because murder is a big deal, and people did be like, oh, that guy's a murderer. So they wanted to frame it as if he was protecting the order's business. And he was a servant to the Lord. Same way as David, though. It's like, how are we going to make a rapist look good? And what they did is they just made Marianne look bad. The person that he was
and
trying
they just didn't tell that part. I never knew why he was in jail. They never talked to me.
No, but they did tell all of Daniel's family because it was Daniel's daughter, okay? So all of Daniel's family was like, oh, Marianne, this and that. Like, overnight, all of these rumors are being spread. And as I've gotten older, the longer I've been out of the order, I'm realizing most of the rumors that went around is because of Paul and his brothers. They were the ones gossiping to try to narrate everything so that they're always on top. So it's the same as how whenever we leave, anyone else who leaves, there's overnight rumors being spread about us,
Mm-hmm.
so that we can never be looked at as an example. I quote this all the time, but it's on The Handmaid's Tale, how they're freaking out because they're like, oh my gosh, someone escaped Gilead. We have to go find her. We have to bring her back because we don't want people to be inspired by that.
Oh,
And then
wow.
but he says, we don't have to do anything. All we have to do is basically ruin her character so that no one looks up to her. And it is smart. It's the lazy thing to do, right? You just like, hey, they're actually on drugs and miserable on the outside. And don't Google it and don't ask questions because then you're defying God. Just trust my word that I know everything about their personal life, even though I don't even know that person. But as a kid in the order, I ate that up. I was like, yeah, they probably are on drugs because why would a leader lie about that? Why would another man lie about that?
Well, and it was, I remember being in the order, if there was something that was bad about the person, then I would assume, like if I believed that, even just one statement, then you kind of have this one-track mindset of if they do anything bad, they're all bad. Because it's kind of like you're either good or you're bad. There wasn't much in between in the order. So if they could find one way to make them look bad, then it was very easy to just convince them that they're fully a bad person.
Which is crazy because that rule never applied to the leaders. So to the followers, one bad egg, right? And then you're out and you're a bad boy. But the leaders couldn't do anything.
Anytime the leaders do something wrong, they'd be like, they're human. They're just like everyone else. It's
Jesus is forgiveness. Wait a minute, you didn't give me that same grace when I made one mistake. Yeah, but it was really apparent when I made that video and I posted a picture of Paul breaking order standards because he went to a outside dance with a girl he didn't marry. I showed the picture. One, people thought I was lying. People thought I was editing it because Paul would never do that. There was that group of people like wanting to just say that I'm a terrible person and I'm lying. Then there was another group of people that was like, well, this was before the case for Kiss came out. And like, of course, Paul didn't, like, it was a different time. They're like justifying it. And I was like, the reason it bothers me is because Paul did those things. And he has screamed at other kids for doing the same things. And he has given so much shame and guilt to kids for doing less than what he did in high school. So that's the frustrating part. It's like, let's give Paul free range to do whatever he wants. He's just a free range chicken over here, and we're over here caged and still getting like.
But I do think he tries so hard to hide it, and just like how a lot of people convince themselves of things, in a way, I wouldn't be surprised if he's convinced himself that that was a different time, or maybe that he didn't do it or something like that.
Well, he has to be on a. It's like a narcissist, right? A narcissist has their set of rules and they can do those things, but if you do it, how dare you? And it's like a weird disconnect that they have. But okay, maybe I'll answer some questions and then I thought David went to prison for child abuse, not rape. So David was supposed to serve 10 years, if I believe correctly, and incest was one of the charges he got because if you watch the video that I just it was a TikTok or even a short that I have on here. But if you Google it too, when David got out of prison, he promised that he wouldn't live incest again. Incest was one of them, which is so funny. He's like, I swear I will never do incest again. He's having kids with his sisters while his sisters were pregnant while he was saying that with his kid. So even while he was in prison, he was somehow getting these women pregnant with, I mean, there's a whole theory on that, if they were actually his kids or if it's, a lot of people say it was a turkey baster. But, yeah, so incest was one. I'm pretty sure rape was one too because Marianne testified against David, but he was supposed to be in for 10 years, and I think he only served 6, and he was on like probation for a while.
He was in prison for 6 years?
Because we prayed hard enough?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess I was young and didn't know the track of time, but I remember thinking that he just went to jail for a little bit and then was right back. Is what it seemed
yeah,
like.
I think it was 4 to 6. He did not do the full 10 because they were watching him still. So I remember I was friends with some of David's kids, and they said that David had to go to the first wife's house all the time because that was the legal wife, and that if he wanted to spend time with his sisters, then they would have to either come there or like he couldn't be seen with the sisters, but he would still figure out how to get them pregnant. But I mean, that's just what I would hear from the kids. You know, hearing the parents talking, and David was over at the first wife's house way more than the rest, and so people were like, "Oh, is he favoring?" They're like, "No, he's not favoring. He just can't be seen with his sisters."
For legal reasons.
For legal reasons, he can't be seen with his sisters, holding their hands and stuff. But they were sending letters, like they were definitely breaking the rules of incest in those letters, which is crazy to me that they didn't read the letters. Like maybe they don't read the letters in the prison. I feel like they
Yeah,
do.
maybe they went as far as going to letters so that they could like burn them or get rid of it or something. You know?
I think that they do read letters in prison. I
No,
think
but
that they open
if they
everything.
used the letters and got rid of them, though, there would be no evidence, right?
What do you mean? You're a prisoner, and your sister, your half sister that you're married to, that you have kids with, is sending you a letter, and they.
Oh,
read
you're
it.
saying they didn't? Okay, they should have read it before it got to them.
Yeah. So I think what they did was, because I did read one of the letters. Because
how did you get?
Because I was friends with David's kids, and some of the kids would snoop, and also there was a letter that was dropped in church. Anyways, there was lots of letters because that was half of their relationship for a period of time, right? So one of the letters had code names about other wives, and I don't remember if it was themselves too, but yeah. So that's probably how they did it. Now that I'm thinking back to it, I didn't think we would talk about this, so I didn't get my brain ready for this. So, anyways, I'm gonna turn the time over to Esco, and then we'll close for prayer. I'm gonna get my drink.
Are we gonna read any comments?
Yeah, you can read from here if you want to.
Oh yeah, this is the easier way.
Oh, did you open this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because yeah, really the only thing I was gonna share, and then we can read some of these comments, was this scary story book. And the reason why I like this one so much is because it's it says all of these stories are true. And, there's a lot of books that claim the stories are true, but you can kind of tell they're not really true. But this one has a lot of true stories, and they're still crazy stories. Like some of them, they're based as far as like 100 years back, and they have some of the most extreme ones is about people being driven so crazy that they are led to insanity. And they just have some really interesting concepts too. Like the creepiest one that I've read so far, and I haven't finished the book, but there's one where there's a mayor that is in charge of this town, and he fought so hard to become the mayor, to kind of like, in a way, just to be in control. And he might have been power hungry or whatever, but once he finally got all the power, he had driven himself so crazy that he ends up being the death of the entire town. And there's a lot that goes into it, but essentially because of the townfolk gave him so much power, then once he went crazy, he was able to use that same power that they handed over to him to ruin the town, and in the end ended up most of the people in the town were all dead by the end of it, which is crazy and it's scary, but it's the perfect Halloween vibe. And there's so many different stories. Like some of them get a little too extreme, and there's a civilization that was on, I don't remember the name of the island, but there was an island way back when where an entire island became cannibals, and eventually the island started running out of people that they would have to travel to other islands to keep their tribe going, basically. Like, it gets crazy. There's some really wild stuff. So if you don't like scary stories, then you probably don't like Halloween, actually. But anyways, it's just a fun one, and there's lots of cool stories in it. But yeah, other things about Halloween.
I thought you were going to tell the Barbados one, or you don't want to tell that one?
I've told that one before. And what's crazy, yeah, this one has a story about the same graveyard that I've shared on my channel before, because I served my mission in Barbados. And so while I was there on Halloween, we actually walked through the haunted gravesite that they have on the island. And it's a small enough island. Everyone there knows about it. But I didn't realize how crazy this gravesite was. So when I went there, it was dark. And so when I saw a real actual skull, it freaked me out, because I didn't realize that there's lots of grave robbers on the island. And so many of the graves have already been dug up and people like rob them and stuff. But yeah, there's a whole haunted gravesite on the island, and it's pretty creepy. And I went and explored it on Halloween.
On Halloween?
Yeah.
I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, they let you do that when you're on your mission?
Well, all we technically did was walk through it. So we didn't break any rules. We just walked through the gravesite. So
let's talk about
that's
that.
not against the rules.
What are the rules? This is Halloween and it's creepy. So what are the creepy rules you have to follow?
Creepy rules? Well, there's so many rules.
You can't date girls.
Go on and on. Yeah, you obviously can't go on dates. You have a curfew. You have to be home by a certain time. But there's a few exceptions to that rule. And then, so much to the uniform that you wear.
They can't let you out of their sight unless you're in the bathroom, basically, right?
Well, it's sight and sound. So if you don't see them, but you can hear them, then you're okay. or vice versa. If you can't quite hear them, but you can see them, then you're fine. But
Is there a rule for title telling?
not a rule, but you're obviously encouraged. If someone's breaking the rules, you want to tell because the theory is God already knows, so might as well let everyone else know. I guess I don't know, but yeah.
Oh, Josh is like starve yourself on Thursdays.
Thursdays.
Remember
Oh,
Fast
in
Thursdays?
the order, yeah.
I still
It's a
can't
Fast
believe they wouldn't
Thursday.
let us have water too.
Well, I'm just shocked we started so young.
For those of you that are new,
it was
we're
not
talking about
healthy.
Fast Thursdays. Because LDS Church does Fast Sundays, but
Fast
they only do
Sundays,
half a day.
Well, yeah, kind of.
When I found that out, I was like, what's this?
Well, oh man, that's funny.
Don't you think? Because we did 24 hours.
Yeah, I do remember thinking that it was a lot easier, but it's still kind of like a full day. You just have your meals slightly offset, so it's still 24 hours, but
it's noon.
But it's noon, so yeah, you gotta still have the next meal. But
that's a little smarter, I think.
So it just makes it a little bit easier. But I don't know how young I was when I started, but I was very young, and I remember literally just feeling like I was dying in my bed, watching the clock till it hit midnight, and I'd crawl over to the kitchen and drink water and eat whatever I could find.
Yeah, I'm so thirsty. I remember shame, a lot of shame if I broke it. Like one time I was.
I would never tell people. I broke it sometimes, and I just be quiet about it. Why tell anybody?
I couldn't lie about it. I was like, I did it. One time I remember so vividly. I was sitting on the stairs at our 33rd house. I was just sitting there, and there was a peanut on the ground. And I was like, and I just out of instinct, I was starving. I ate it, and then I was like, no, because I was like 11. But it was like you have to prep for the fast, like know what you're fasting for. It's such an interesting culture, right? Like, what are you fasting for? And everyone would share what they're fasting for, and some people would be like, I'm fasting for direction on who I'm supposed to marry. And some people were very open about the deep stuff that they're fasting for. It was just a known thing that you fast for something important. But a lot of the times I feel like it was a brownie point thing too. Like, I'm fasting for something that dad wants or something that, just so that you can get closer to a person or have them like you more.
I remember many times I'd make it up because I knew I had to fast, so I'd just fast, but I wouldn't really know what for until they asked me, and I'd just think of something right there.
Man, you lived a different life in the order than I did. I never would lie about. I would feel so guilty to lie about that because it's like fasting. Like you're fasting for God, and then to lie about it is like you're sinning while you're trying to fast.
Yeah, I don't know why I didn't feel that bad about it. I mean, I was a kid, but
I have I think I just had a lot of guilt and shame as a kid in the order.
I remember oftentimes thinking Mom was lying about it. I don't know if I maybe caught her sneaking food on a fast day or what, but I remember many times thinking, like, there's no way she really fasted all day.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was, that you didn't feel like it was that important because maybe Mom didn't show it as an important thing. Maybe as older kids were more plagued by it. I don't know. I also felt like a lot of when Dad would pressure us to go for New Year's meeting. Remember, he would be like, go up and do the talk. I hated New Year's meetings. And I didn't want to, but I feel like in his brain, he's like, my kids are good, and the whole church. Because New Year's meeting, they did this thing at the very end where they're like, now we can open up for anyone to. And it would be like testimony. Hours long.
Hours. Just kids saying the same thing over and over.
I know that Brother Paul was the man on the watchtower, and
it was crazy.
We are on the work of the Lord. But it's a weird thing how Dad would pressure us to do it, and then he would even give us prizes afterwards, like a piece of gum or something, or he would just be really sad at you the rest of the day. And so I would go up there and I'd come up with something to say. But yeah, a lot of things were just for show, I feel like, in there. Like, I talk about this a lot with you guys, like, your reputation matters more than what you actually do. Oh, yeah. And I guess you learned that because you just said,
that's why you get so good at lying, I feel like.
I feel like I got good at lying to outsiders.
I still, though, don't get me wrong, I still felt very guilty when I would lie about stuff that I felt like was quote-unquote important. Like, I remember when they caught me, well, they didn't even catch me, but there were some things that kind of made it look like I had snuck out, and so they were hounding me about it, and I just told them, like there was, I wasn't just always lying, but there are certain things that just didn't seem important enough for me to worry about.
Yeah, I guess I got to a point where I started finding out that Dad was lying to me. So then I would just lie back because I was like when he found out that so all that happened was our half brother told on me for talking to a boy, but Dad made it sound like he knew way more. So he's like, "Are you gonna tell me what you've been doing with so and so?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And And he's like, I already know, so you can just tell me, and I'll be happy. Basically, I'll be happy because you're honest. And then I was like, snuck out with him, and I kissed him this many times, and this is how many times we snuck out. And then he was like,
you told him way more than he did.
Yeah, it's when I found out, because I found out that my half brother is the one that told him, and all he knew was that I was texting him. And so then I was like, oh, so Dad's a liar. And he used those tactics on me. So then I learned to just lie.
Yeah, I vividly remember the first time I caught Dad in a lie. And ever since that moment, I saw him completely different. Because I always thought, like, he's a man of God. Part of me thought he could not lie. Like, he was like some spiritual thing, like, kept him from ever being able to lie. And then I caught him in a lie, and it totally shifted. My whole view of him changed.
Changes your whole perspective, yeah. Well, I'm finding out too, like when I found out that Dad went forward on one of Cammie's friends, I was like,
crazy.
that is so weird, because it's super personal now. Now this is our friend that we've been hanging out with all the time. Is this why you're
and
happy to go over there all the time?
It breaks that ability of justifying it, because there's lots of crazy things, but we grew up with it, so we're able to justify it. But then it gets so extreme that you just cannot justify it anymore. Even as a kid growing up in the cult, it's like it's too far. Like there's no reason or way I could figure out why God might want that.
Yeah, and that's why I had a lot of conversations with Mom. Like, how could you watch your husband marry his sister? Like, how could you physically think that God really wants that when it says in the Bible not to live incest? Like, I don't know what the rational way of thinking, and I think a lot of them just shut it out of their brain. Yeah. They just don't want to think about it because there is no justification. Mm-hmm. And maybe some people really think it's justified because they're keeping their bloodline pure, maybe, but I don't know.
Yeah, people will go to extreme lengths to try and justify it.
Yeah.
Drive them crazy.
I know, we were supposed to talk about haunted things.
Well, like Halloween memories. Like, what do you remember about that last time we ever went trick-or-treating?
I don't know why I was so adamant on trick-or-treating every single year.
Because you had just turned 17, right?
And people kept saying I was too old to be trick-or-treating. And I was like, no, I'm not. But then I got embarrassed. But I still trick-or-treated. I dressed as Avril Lavigne, I think. I had my little guitar, and then me and Esco went, and we just trick-or-treated to one house just so I could say that I trick-or-treated at 17. And
I remember it was so late, because I had already gone trick-or-treating, and I came back home, and she didn't go, so I was like, you gotta go, and I was like, convincing her to go. So we go back out, and then it was so late that the guy was like, wow, you're still trick-or-treating, but he still gave us candy.
Yeah, we got one candy. Did you ever have any, like, seeing ghosts experience in the order? Or
no, haunted? That's why I have I don't know what you'd call it, but, like, I have a little bit of a desire to, like, anytime people are like, oh, don't ever go to this place or don't do these seances or whatever, a little part of me is like, I want to, like, because I've never had an experience that I'm like, okay, now I really believe in ghosts and, like, I'm scared of them. I still believe in ghosts for a sense because I do feel like it makes sense that there's a type of, what would you call it? If there is, God and spirits and angels, then there probably is demons and ghosts and things like that, But I just haven't experienced any of it myself. But
so now that do you believe? Because you used to believe celestial, terrestrial kingdoms.
Yeah, I used to believe a lot of the LDS beliefs, and it's kind of like. So it's not that my belief's completely different, because I still feel like I resonate with a lot of, religious beliefs, but I just have accepted the fact that I just like ghosts. Like, I haven't experienced it, so I'd love to, and I kind of believe that there's something there, but that's why I tell people I'm agnostic with the hope that that God exists, kind of, because I would lean more that way. Because I like that idea. I think it makes a lot of sense, but I just have no proof, no personal experience, no evidence that it's for sure,
Yeah.
So
that's crazy to think of, like, because being raised in the order and just knowing everything, right? You know that there's a God, you know that there's a celestial kingdom, you know that there's polygamists in there, you know everything. And then going to the outside cold turkey to nothing. Well, you joined the LDS church, so I feel like it was a slow transition.
Honestly, I feel like looking at my past, like, I had the easiest transition to my faith and belief system now, because I didn't have to do any extreme. I went from what I was born and raised to something slightly less strict and less crazy, and then to a little bit less and a little more. Yeah.
I feel like I cold turkey, and I still wanted to go to churches, but I started to have this like. I just remember jogging. I was at my adopted family's house and I went on a jog and I had just like learned a bunch of stuff about Joseph Smith. And so then I was like, because I wanted to be Mormon, but then I learned that Joseph Smith was marrying little girls too.
Isn't that funny? You want to be a certain religion, and I
It's
really
comforting.
think it's just because it gives you some similar feelings and some things that you're used to growing up or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like, why does there have to be like?
I think it's familiarity because we were talking about this before, right? Where a lot of people end up being married to or with someone that looks familiar to them, like some of the things from their childhood. It's your brain, just the nostalgic part of it. I don't know. A lot of people end up sticking to their same race, to their same culture, just because it's so familiar. And so I think we do that as well with religions. Usually, people that grew up religious kind of stay religious. Some people will join religions when they hit rock bottom. I think that's when cults became really big, was like Great Depressions and stuff like that. People needed a purpose.
Yeah. Dang.
But yeah, I found someone, because I've talked to you guys so many times about how if I would have a nap in the daytime, I would wake up like impending doom, like I'm gonna die or and I was asking all of my siblings that, and our little brother said he knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I think it might be a form of PTSD. Where you wake up and you feel like you are dying right now, like you are dying, or death is coming, or it's just something really crazy is about to happen. And I think it's
scary.
It has to do with maybe like getting abused as a kid so often, because there was often times where you didn't know why mom was running towards you, or like you're just like, okay, I guess we're in it now. That happened a lot, and so I think that could be whatever it is, because me and him have it. And I've asked so many people on here because I'm like, is this not a normal thing? And not a lot of people, no one actually. I don't think anyone has fully understood it until he said, yeah. No, he didn't even say yeah. He was describing it to Cammie and Rachel, and they were like, and then I sat up in the bed and I was like, I know what you're talking about. Like, thank God someone else has it. But I don't know the cure. So we're
was there certain ages of your life where it was like more common, or because that's weird that you would have those experiences even after being in such different environments.
Well, when I first left, it was like waking up sweating like dad was coming to my room, or like I was back in the order, and so I would wake up sweating like, and then look around my room and be like so relieved that I wasn't in there anymore. Now that it's been 11 years since I've left, it started getting to the point of like, you're gonna die and there's nothing after this life. Wow. Like waking up knowing that I'm dying. And
that definitely sounds like a form of PTSD.
Yeah, but it started happening probably a few years ago. Isn't that so weird? Life just gets worse. Just kidding. No, I like these better than my other sweat dreams. But I think it's a matter of talking about it, figuring out what it is. If it's PTSD, figuring out how what's the solution to it, rather than just living with it. Whereas before, I just thought it was normal. I thought everybody had it. So
you didn't just ask somebody?
I asked everybody, and nobody knew what I was talking about.
Oh,
and so then for the longest time, I was like, maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's just me. And then when he said that, I was like, okay, so it's a real thing. I just need to figure out how to diagnose this and get it fixed. But anyways, with unhealed trauma, it can come out when you relax, which includes sleep. I was reading something online after we had this conversation. It's what you're talking about. It's like because when you're raised in an environment where you don't really ever get to relax, you're always looking over your shoulder for like, what's mom and dad, Then when you get relaxed, your body's in a weird state and it's like ready to, be in survival mode. But thank you guys so much for joining. This is the last live before Halloween, so I hope you guys have a really good Halloween. I'm hoping to have one more video out for you guys for the creepy stories from my cult. So stay tuned. It's good to see you all. Bye, Patty.
Was you going to go over any of the questions for the last video? Or was that different?
I mean, no one really had questions. So I didn't see any questions.
Nice. Sweet.
I feel always so bad when you guys join the live and we're leaving. Bye. Bye.
When they get here.
Bye, Casey. I just read Bethany Joy's Lynn's book about being in a cult. Terrible. Oh, really? I'll have to look that one up. Okay. Taylor says, I have generalized anxiety disorder and have had panic attacks, and these two are highly comorbid. Yeah, I don't feel like I've ever had a full-on panic attack, but I can feel it in my chest, like when it's going to. Well, I don't even know if that's what would happen. It's just I have to get myself out of the situation that I'm in when I start to feel that Have you ever noticed when your breathing gets like you don't know why?
It doesn't really happen to me.
You just had a good laugh, didn't you?
Well, I feel like there's usually a reason when my body's doing something. Because I get nervous, I get anxiety, but it's usually, right before an interview or right before something crazy is going to happen, or I don't know. Or when I the most recent one was when I made a mistake at work and I had to go tell my boss about it. I'm just like, oh boy. When you know someone's going to react to it, it just makes you all nervous. But.
That's true. And I don't have it all the time, but there is random times where when the last time happened when I was with a bunch of ex-order members and they were all talking about their trauma. And then randomly I started feeling like I couldn't breathe. Super weird. But I'm proud of myself for acknowledging it and like being in tune with my body, because I think because of that I've never had a panic attack, because I'm in tune with what's happening right before it happens, and then I run away to go like help myself for a second.
Can part of that be kind of like, how people talk about like the vibe of the room or of the discussion or whatever? And it's like, of course, if you're talking about really depressing and sad things, it's very often.
But it wasn't. It wasn't like right? People were there like, and then this happened, and then this. They're like laughing about their trauma, and we do that.
But it was still talking about horrible things, though, right? Yeah, I've been in those same conversations, and I definitely get to the point where I'm like, wow, this is like, we're gonna either laugh about this or we are gonna cry about this. Like the stuff that they talk about, it gets pretty rough.
The weird thing though is before it was like healing, like your dad did that to you too, ah. But now, I don't know what has changed in my healing journey, but now when I hear all these young girls talking about it, and I was like, and I don't know if it was that I was getting triggered, bringing me back to my young self, or it's also a form of like, I can't believe this is still happening to these poor young girls.
What it makes me think of when you say that is I used to joke a lot about it, and it never bothered me until I started talking about it happening to other people. And it's like when I share something about my childhood, it doesn't affect me at all. But when I talk about it about someone else that it's like currently happening to, or even it doesn't have to be current, but it's happened to someone else, it affects me so much more.
You know what I think it is? What? Because Allison said she talks about her stories and it's like she's telling someone else's story. Like she's disassociated so much that she's like, it's not even me. And so I almost wonder if we've disassociated so much from our own story. That's why we can just laugh and be like, ha, dad punched me. And then, but when you hear someone else saying the same thing that happened to you, but it happened to them, it's like real. Like the person's right there, which is kind of crazy because we were doing that by telling everyone our stories and like laughing about it. We were traumatizing them in the way that we're getting traumatized and other people do it. It's weird.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Anyways, this was a good talk.
What's something fun for Halloween? You gotta go to a haunted house. Something fun everyone can do for Halloween.
We did. We already went to one. Kyle Brandt's here. He advocates for his
he runs a haunted house. Yeah. It's a good one too. I've been to it many times. I wanted to go to it this year, but of course I can't because it's far away. But I'm sure I'll go again.
Yeah. Josh says carved pumpkins.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
Fun. Scary movies. I want to do a scary movie night.
Ooh. Top 5 scary movies.
Oh, Silent Hill is my all-time because of you. What? You and I watched it in the basement of the Copper Dust house. But that's why it was so scary. Because remember, we turned off all the lights in the house and watched it in the basement. And to this day, like, it terrified me. I was so scared. I went to bed that night and I thought that like the walls were changed because it was dark, and so like the shadows would like move some of the lights in the room. And I kept on worrying that like in the movie, how the walls would turn into that demon layer or whatever. I thought that was going to happen to me. I was so scared. I can't
watch really scary movies anymore, but for whatever reason in the order, I could watch them all the time. Probably because my real life was more scary. But Insidious was my favorite for a long time. Insidious was a good one. The Conjuring, that one still freaks me out. I think stuff with spirits creeps me out because axe murderer, chainsaws, those can happen in real life, but and you can run, whatever else you can prep for those.
And a part of my brain, part of my brain always thinks, if I was being chased by a chainsaw guy, I could probably outrun him. At least I tell myself that, whether I can or can't, then I don't get as scared because I tell myself that. But when it comes to the mind, I'm like, I would go just as crazy as that person. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, when it's a mind, something when your mind is not in control, Because also it's like, okay, a guy with a chainsaw, it'll be a quick death. But with a demon, I'm gonna get spooked for however long. And what kind of crazy things are they gonna do to me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would totally play with a Ouija board though.
Me
But
too.
not in my house, not in my space.
Just somewhere else. Just in a.
I don't know.
Oh, in Ted Bundy's cave.
No. What? In Utah?
Yeah.
No.
I went to his cave.
Ted Bundy has a cave apparently in Utah.
Last time I was there was a group of kids that said that they were going to go do a seance inside of his cave.
No.
I was like,
so I wouldn't do that.
I'd probably go check that out.
But I would do like how I went to that hotel and we did that weird seance with the flashlights.
Ooh,
but there was something that followed me back home, and so if that happened again, I would get really creeped out. I don't know, because I know I sound crazy.
No, but that's what's interesting is like that experience you tell is terrifying, and of course I don't want that to happen to me. But it's like a part of me wants to
get spooked.
A part of me just wants like the spiritual side to be revealed. So it's like even if it comes at a terrifying cost, I still a little bit wonder if I might want to experience that because I've just never experienced it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
I was like that when I was in the order. When I never had any ghost experiences, I wanted it really, really bad.
Right? Yeah.
But then when
the moment you get your prayers answered, you don't like it.
Yeah. And it was always with Shirley's kids. Shirley's kids can see beyond the veil, I swear, or they just have like magical powers to make me think that there's something. But after those experiences, then I'm like, I know there's something beyond our human realm that we can't understand, whether it's energies, whether it's just something that we can't fully understand because we're in this earthly experience. And like scientists can study space because that's something tangible, right? How do you study an energy of a presence of something that's tapping the Ouija board to tell you, yes, I'm a boy, and no, I'm not a girl? You know what I mean? And it's so easy. And I've had this argument with atheists. They're like, well, how do you know you weren't doing it? How do you know this? And I'm like, because every time I've had these experiences, the other person describes what they're seeing, and it's what I'm seeing. The other person says what's happening, and I'm confirming, oh, okay, so I'm not crazy. So this is what was going on in my mind, and you just said it out loud. It wasn't me just being like, oh, the Ouija board moved to this place, and now there's demons everywhere, you know? But I think what happens with atheists and people who just don't want to believe it, it's the same as order people. They just don't want to believe anything other than what their reality is. Because then they have to start thinking about other things. But
yeah, some people like to put life in a box and just keep it in a nice little box.
Yeah, but also I think that we're labeled as crazy if we think that there's anything beyond what you can see with your eyes, you know?
Well, but then that would be saying everyone who believes in God is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Atheists think that. Atheists think that a lot of religious people are crazy. And religious people think that atheists are crazy. But I truly believe atheists and religious people have the same amount of faith.
Because you have to have faith to believe in nothing.
You have to have faith to believe that there's nothing after this life because there's no proof of that. But you also have to have faith that there is something because there's also no proof of that. So you have the same amount of faith, and you're in my opinion, you're going just as hard. Whereas an agnostic person is like, I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong in a lot of areas and that I don't know. But I think that the human experience just has to know, especially like.
Well, there's a comfort that comes from knowing. So it's like your brain's kind of like constantly trying to figure it out, but yeah.
Yeah, there is a comfort for sure. When I first left the order, that was the scariest thing to be like, oh my gosh, there's nothing. There might be nothing.
Or even worse, because when I first left, I was like, I hope hell isn't that bad, you know? It's you're different. It's a different mindset because I believed in heaven and hell 100%. I still left the order, so my fear was I just hope that I don't actually go to hell because I know there's a hell there. And I left the order. So
I started reasoning with the devil. Like I was like, the devil might not be that bad because he lets gays in there and he lets people of color, whereas God doesn't.
Because he's not racist.
Yeah.
Right?
See, so why would I want to go to be with a racist God?
Well, I used to tell myself that I loved when I read the part in the Bible where it said Satan used to be an angel and like be side by side with Jesus. I was like, thank goodness. That means he can't be that bad. Right?
Yeah. He still has some morals, right?
It'll probably be nice to me.
The order owns a ghost town. I've been to that ghost town, and do you remember this? It's like in the middle of nowhere. It was a booming town at one point, but I think what happened was there was like a mine or something that had a lot of
The
work.
mining town, yeah.
Yeah, and so then when the mine shut down or whatever happened to where there was no more jobs, so then everybody left. We went there as kids and we stayed in one of these homes. It was the creepiest setup of a home, and I remember it to this day because it was so creepy. The bathroom was like in the storage area, and it was on a stage. Like there was a toilet on like a pedestal thing, and you could see all of the food storage. And I remember being on the toilet and freaking out because there was a noise in the storage area, and it was a rat or a mouse ran across because they were eating through the food. And there was a room with a huge safe, like a safe.
When you open it,
was like this big.
Wow.
And I was like, why would the order have a safe this big out in the middle of a ghost town? In this weird house where the toilet's on the stage. What are you guys doing in here? But sorry, I keep saying goodbye because we gotta go. But this has been really, really fun. You guys have been a hoot. Thanks for joining Josh and Denise and Todd. I wonder how did the order convince people they're direct descendants of Jesus, even though it's been over 2,000 years. I know.
It's the blood. They tested the blood, and God said.
God said. And Jesus was white also. And he was a polygamist. So, and if you just learn not to question the leadership, you can say anything. And then the leadership is true. But he says, I went there in July one year, and the Jenkins children of the corn start singing Christmas carols out the windows of the haunted house. So that's funny. All right. I hope you guys have a really awesome Halloween, and you trick or treat and save some candy for us, okay? Okay, nice. See you. The Patreon subscribers, I'll see you tomorrow, and then the rest of y'all, I'll see you next Sunday. Okay,
all right,
bye.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Get spooked.
Get spooked.